I never used to believe in fairy tales or happy endings. That kind of thinking belonged in books, not real life. But I let myself believe at once that love could be different, that it could survive boredom, time, even temptation. That when it's real, it holds on. That was a lie, and I learned it in the worst way, with a pair of red lace panties that weren't mine, shoved carelessly between the couch cushions in our apartment. My name is Emily Carter, 24 years old. Born in a small town, but carrying a heart too big for its borders. I used to think respect was the bare minimum in love, that waiting for the right moment and for the right person made me strong. Instead, it left me alone, humiliated and untouched in every way that counted. He cheated, right there in our apartment. With a girl who looked like she might still be in high school. Maybe she even thought I was his older sister. I didn't scream or cry. I just looked him in the eyes and asked, "Is this real?" He choked and stumbled over his words. "Babe, it's not what it looks like," the oldest line in the book. That night I did something I never imagined I'd have the courage to do. I left. No drama, no goodbye. Just my purse in hand, the apartment key on the table, and the sound of the door clicking shut behind me. I spent days numb, replaying every moment. The betrayal, the nights I said no, because I believed my body was sacred. I had waited so long for something real, and all I got was lies. Now I didn't want perfect. I wanted messy. I wanted warmth. I wanted to feel something, even if it wasn't love. For the first time, I opened my laptop and typed, "Luxury escorts. Discreet, respectful, experienced." I wasn't looking for love, just control. That's when my life collided with a man far more dangerous than heartbreak. Not an escort, not for hire, and not what I expected. His name was Nathan Blake, CEO of Blake and Stratton Enterprises.
Hey, man.
Who ruled Manhattan's corporate world with ice in his veins. But that night, I was the one who knocked him off balance. The plan was simple. I'd meet the escort I hired at the most discreet restaurant in the city. We'd share a drink. I'd end the night no longer a virgin. No strings. No lies. Just control. I wore a black spaghetti-strap dress, the boldest thing I owned. My lipstick was red, my heels sky-high. I was terrified but determined. The escort said he'd be in a gray blazer and white shirt, sitting near the back. That's exactly what I saw. I took a breath, grabbed my wine, and walked over. "Hi, are you Gabriel?" The man looked up with eyes that stopped me cold. His stare was intense, sharp, and piercing. "No, and who are you?" I felt my face heat. "Sorry," I thought. "I'm waiting for someone, not you." I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. "Looking for an escort?" I froze. "That's none of your business. You thought I was one. That says a lot. This isn't something I do. It's my first time doing anything like this." He scanned me slowly. "You don't look the type. And you don't look like a decent human being." He smiled. "Sit." "Excuse me? You're nervous? Embarrassed? Have a drink before you run." I should have left, but something about him made me stay. Maybe it was the way he looked at me like I mattered, or maybe I was just tired of being ignored. I sat. "Nathan Blake," he said, offering his hand. My jaw dropped. The Nathan Blake raised an eyebrow. "CEO of Blake and Stratton, billionaire. Ice King of Midtown." He gave a half smile. "You've done your homework. I'm Emily Carter. What made you think sleeping with an escort would fix how you're feeling?" Wanted to feel in control? To choose my first time? Not have it taken or wasted? His expression shifted. "You're still a virgin?" "Yes. Is that a problem?" "No, it's rare." We sat in silence. Then he said, "Gabriel canceled." I saw him leave. He got into a cab outside. "How do you know?" "I know every face in this place." "Creepy. I'm thorough." Then he stood. "Come with me. You're offering a night with someone who knows what they're doing. No judgment. No damage. No promises." "Why?" "Because you're beautiful. Because I need to forget something too. Because you surprised me." He held out his hand. "Come with me." And in that moment, I realized nothing in my life. would ever be the same again. I didn't go with him. Not because I didn't want to, because something inside me hesitated. It wasn't fear, it was survival instinct. As tempting as it was to lose myself in a man like Nathan Blake, doing so wouldn't have been taking control. Would have been giving it up entirely. I told him no with a trembling voice. My palms, sweaty, my chest tight. He didn't argue. He didn't press. Just stared at me with those dark, unreadable eyes and tilted his head like he was memorizing the shape of my refusal. You'll regret it, he said softly, not as a threat, but as a prophecy. But that's all right. I like women who resist. I turned away before my knees gave out. 3 days later, everything changed again. I stepped into the elevator of a glass building in Midtown. Clutching my purse like it was my last lifeline, I had a new job. Junior assistant, nothing glamorous. But it was a start, a chance to rebuild. I pressed the button for the top floor and repeated the company name in my head like a mantra. Blake and Stratton Enterprises. I had read the onboarding packet, memorized the office layout, studied the leadership structure. I hadn't imagined I'd ever meet the CEO himself, let alone that it would be him. When the doors slid open, he was. The first person I saw, Nathan Blake, same ice blue stare, same perfectly tailored suit, same commanding presence. The air left my lungs. He read the name on my badge, his expression cold and unreadable. Emily Carter, you're late, my mouth. Opened, then closed. I didn't expect. You didn't expect the man from the restaurant to be your boss, he said bluntly. And I didn't expect you to apply for a job without researching who ran the company. My heart sank. I didn't know. You'll be working under my VP, but that means I'll be seeing you often. Can you handle that? Said quickly. Of course. Good, because here, I'm not the man from the restaurant. I'm your employer. He walked away, calm, detached, leaving me rattled and breathless. Working there was like walking a tightrope over fire. Nathan was meticulous, demanding, silent most of the time, but when he spoke, the entire office froze. When he entered a room, it changed the air. Everyone became smaller. I felt like I was burning alive under his gaze. Sometimes in meetings, he looked at me like he could hear every thought running through my head. Like he was daring me to remember that night, the conversation, that offer. Other times he barely acknowledged me, and somehow that made it worse. In my 3rd week, I was called into his office. I stood outside the glass wall for a second, took a breath, and typed the access code. Come in, he said without looking up. I stepped inside. You wanted to see me? He nodded, still scanning a document. I need you to attend an event with me tonight. It's a private reception for investors. My assistant is out of town. I need someone who's discreet, attentive, and knows when to speak. You're inviting me to a corporate dinner? I'm testing you. You'll be presented as part of my strategy team. You're there to observe, not chatter. You're not a wallflower either. Why me? He finally looked up. Because I want to see how you perform when the ground isn't stable under your feet. Then he leaned back in his chair with a faint, knowing smile. And because I still don't understand what made you say no that? Night, my throat tightened. Is this part of my job? Is this part of the game? Do you accept? I should have said no. But something inside me, curiosity, ego attraction, answered for me. I accept. Good. He slid a sleek card across the table. Pick up your dress at this address. It's already paid for. My driver will get you at 7. And if I don't want the dress, you'll want it. I have excellent taste. He returned his eyes to his tablet, dismissing me like a meeting had ended. I walked out feeling like I'd just signed a contract with the devil. The scariest part was that I couldn't wait to see what came next. At 7 sharp, a black town car pulled up in front of my building. The driver, dressed in black, opened the door with a polite nod. Miss Carter? That's me. I stepped into the leather interior, still adjusting the black dress I picked up earlier. It hugged my body in ways I hadn't expected. Elegant, subtle, seductive. The other door opened. Nathan slid in beside me, dressed in a dark suit with satin lapels, a watch that probably cost more than my rent, and a scent that made my skin tingle. Good evening, he said. Good evening. His eyes traveled slowly over me. The dress looks even better on you than I imagined. Thank you. You really do have good taste. I know. Confident, arrogant, devastatingly magnetic. The silence in the car wasn't awkward. It was heavy with something else. Tension, awareness. Want nervous? He asked. A little because of the event? Or because you're sitting next to me? I turned to face him. He smirked. Maybe both. I like honesty. It goes a long way with me. He looked back out the window. Just remember, tonight, observe, learn, stay poised. And don't flirt with anyone. I raised an eyebrow. Is that an order? It's a warning. You're with me. The way he said it made me shiver. When we arrived at the venue, a towering building of gold-tinted glass, he stepped out first and opened the door for me. His hand extended, confident and warm. Ready for the game, Miss Carter? Ready. We walked in together, heads turned, conversations paused. All eyes were on him and on me. They're all looking, I whispered. Of course they are. You're stunning, and no one knows who you are. Who am I then? He leaned closer, his voice brushing against my skin. My new favorite distraction. The ballroom glittered with gold chandeliers and polished marble floors. Waiters moved like clockwork, carrying trays of champagne and quiet smiles. Everything smelled of money, strategy, and secrets. Nathan moved through the crowd like he owned it because he did. I followed at his side, trying to match his posture and pace while keeping my emotions in check. This isn't just networking, he whispered as we approached an investor couple. Every word, every smile, every glance is a move on the board. Don't forget that. Do you usually win? He looked at me with a lazy, knowing smile. Always. Stopped in front of a couple dressed in coordinated elegance. The man shook Nathan's hand. The woman greeted him with a soft kiss on the cheek. I stayed quiet, smiling politely, till I felt it. Nathan's hand pressed gently against the small of my back. Just a light touch. Subtle enough not to be noticed, but powerful enough to ignite every nerve in my body. I froze for a split second. Then I smiled wider, pretending it meant nothing. But it meant everything. My body betrayed me. The touch lingered long after he removed his hand. I tried to keep my voice steady through introductions, tried to laugh at the right moments, tried to act normal. But all I could think about was that touch, that heat, that claim. He knew exactly what he was doing. By the time I had my third glass of champagne, I'd found my rhythm. I could handle this. I could handle him. Then the test came. A younger man with sharp features and a tailored suit walked up to me. Emily, right? I'm Zach Morgan, Director of Marketing at Lennox Group. I smiled politely. Nice to meet. You work with Nathan? Just started this week? Then welcome to the madhouse, he said with a grin. If you ever want to sneak out of these shark tanks and breathe some real air, let me know. His flirtation was smooth, confident. But before I could even respond, Nathan appeared beside me. Zach, he said, handing him a drink with a tight smile. I think the hospitality team could use your charm on the other side of the room. Zach hesitated, reading the tone. Hey, of course, it was nice meeting you, Emily. I turned to Nathan, raising an eyebrow. That was a little harsh. He was undressing you with his eyes? We were having a conversation? You were flirting? Oh, so now you own me? He stepped closer, his voice low and firm. Not yet. My breath caught. His eyes burned with the same intensity I remembered. From the restaurant? This time it wasn't just a look. It was a warning. Let's get out of here, he said. Before I could reply, his hand was already in mine, guiding me away from the crowded ballroom and down a quiet, carpeted hallway. We turned a corner and stepped onto a private balcony overlooking the glittering skyline. The air was cooler out here. It did nothing to calm the heat building inside me. You're driving me insane, Emily, he said, voice rough. And you know what's worse? You like it? I don't play games, Nathan. No, he said, stepping closer. You play with fire. His forehead touched mine. I should have stepped back. I didn't single. No hesitation. No warning. Just heat and hunger and a week's worth of tension finally breaking. His lips claimed mine, fierce and urgent. His hands gripped my waist. Mine slid up his chest, pulling him closer. The city sparkled behind us, but I didn't see it. I only felt him when we finally pulled apart, both breathless. He rested his forehead against mine again. This shouldn't have happened, but it did, I whispered. His eyes locked onto mine. And it's going to happen again. We returned to the ballroom like nothing had happened. He stayed cold, composed, professional, but I knew. I knew from the clench in his jaw, the steel in his eyes, that he was barely holding it together. When the night ended, he didn't ask. He just took my hand and led me back to the waiting car. You're still trembling, said once we were inside. It's the cold. I lied. He gave me a look that said he didn't believe a word. It was just a kiss, Emily. I nodded, trying to act composed, just a kiss. But if I touch you again, you'll fall apart. I turned to the window to hide the truth in my eyes. But then his hand moved, sliding along the inside of my thigh. My breath hitched. His fingers pressed gently over the thin fabric. You're wet, aren't you? I gasped, not answering. I should take you home, let you breathe. Let you pretend you're still in control. His hand moved higher. But every second I'm near you, I want to break every rule I've ever made. My body burned. I wanted to surrender, but I was afraid of how badly I wanted to. Tell me to stop, he whispered. His mouth grazing my neck. I stayed silent. The car stopped in front of my building. He pulled his hand away slowly. Good night, Miss Carter. I stepped out, still reeling, still pulsing. Good night, Mr. Blake. And as I rode the elevator to my apartment, one thing became painfully clear. That kiss had changed everything. The next morning, I walked into the office pretending everything was normal. But the moment I saw Nathan in the conference room, in a crisp charcoal suit, eyes cool and unreadable, my stomach flipped. Look at me. Not even once. We were in the same room, breathing the same air, yet he made it feel like I didn't exist. It was calculated, professional, and devastating. The entire morning passed in a blur of emails, reports, and phone calls. I tried to focus, tried to be present. But I felt like I was walking beside a fire I wasn't allowed to touch. At 3:47 p.m., an email arrived in my inbox. Subject, room 1 to be now. Message, bring the project folder and courage. My pulse jumped. Room 1 to be was one of the small executive meeting space is discreet, rarely used. I grabbed the folder, steadied my breath, and walked down the hallway. I knocked lightly. His voice came from inside. Come in. I stepped into the room. He was seated at the end of the table, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. Watching me like I was the only person in the building. Close the door, he said. I did. He nodded toward the folder. Bring it here. I handed it over, but he didn't open it. Instead, he stood slowly and walked around the table until he was standing in front of me. Too close. I've spent the entire day thinking about what happened on that balcony. Swallowed. And I want you, he said, eyes locked on mine. But not just physically. He stepped closer. I can see it in your eyes. You want more too. You want to explore. You're curious. No. But you don't know how far you're willing to go. What exactly are you offering? I'm offering an experience. One with rules, with boundaries, but without lies. You're proposing an arrangement? I'm offering you a choice. If you want to walk away, I won't stop you. But if you cross this line, you'll be mine, Emily. Fully. I won't share you. I won't apologize for wanting you. And I won't pretend it's just physical. My heart thundered in my chest. This feels like a risk. It is, he said softly, 'cause I won't be gentle. Not when I know you crave something deeper than sweet words. He paused. Say it. Do you want this? My voice shook, but I didn't hesitate. Yes, I want it. His eyes darkened. For a moment, he didn't move, just stared at me like he was memorizing the sound of my answer. "This isn't a game," he said. "When I touch you, I'll do it knowing every inch of you belongs to me." I nodded. "Good." His hand slid to my waist, firm and deliberate. His other hand lifted my chin. "From now on, your time, your attention, your pleasure mine. If another man even looks at you the way I do, he'll know exactly where you stand." Oh, my knees weakened under the weight of his words. "You're scaring me," I whispered. "I'm telling you the truth," he said. "I can give you more pleasure than you've ever imagined. But I need your trust, your surrender. Can you do that?" "I can." His lips curled into a dark smile. "Then, kneel." The air in the room thickened. I didn't move at first, not because I was afraid of him, but because I understood what that command meant. It wasn't about control. It was about choice, and I chose him. I knelt. Nathan watched me like he'd just claimed something sacred. Hands slid into my hair gently, almost reverently. "This isn't about domination," he said. "It's about breaking walls. It's about teaching you to feel things you've never let yourself feel." He knelt down to my level, staring straight into my eyes. "Are you ready?" "Yes." He stood, took my hand, and helped me rise. "Then take off your panties." My breath hitched, but my body moved. Slowly, carefully, I slid them off beneath my dress and handed them to him. He folded them with casual precision and slipped them into the pocket of his suit jacket. "Now sit." Returned to my seat, my body burning. "Pretend we're discussing numbers," he said, opening the folder. "But you'll leave this room remembering one thing. You have nothing under that dress, and you belong to me." He started flipping through pages, his voice cool and professional, but his eyes met mine with every line, every pause. The space between us sizzled with everything unsaid. When the meeting ended, he walked to me again. He didn't touch me. Leaned in close, his voice low and dangerous. "Tonight, my penthouse, where something I can take off quickly, and come ready to be mine." Then he turned and walked out, leaving nothing behind but the scent of his cologne and the heat of his command. I stood in the empty room, shaken, breathless, and utterly consumed. As soon as I stepped into my apartment, I locked the door and leaned against it like it could hold back everything I was feeling. My heart was racing. My body was still pulsing from the memory of his voice, his touch, the heat in his eyes when he said, "Tonight, my penthouse." I walked to my bedroom, dropped my bag on the couch, and kicked off my heels. I peeled the dress from my body and stared at myself in the mirror. I didn't look like the same woman anymore. Something inside me had shifted. This was crazy. But it was the kind of crazy I didn't want to run from. Since the moment I found out my ex had cheated, I'd been trying to find myself again, reclaim the part of me that believed I was worth something. I thought I needed peace. But what I really needed was power. Power over myself, over my choices, over my desire. Nathan Blake wasn't just temptation. He was control disguised as surrender. I stepped into the shower, letting hot water run over my bare skin. I tried to remind myself that this was just an experience. Just one night. I wasn't falling. I was choosing. But when I closed my eyes, I didn't see escape. I saw his eyes. I heard his voice saying, "Good girl," and that quiet command pulled me deeper. After my shower, I opened the closet and stood in front of it for a long moment. Lingerie suddenly felt like armor. I chose black laced, delicate but bold, and layered over it a short wine-red dress with thin straps that clung to my skin. No panties, just bare, as he asked. I did my makeup with care, subtle but defined. Just left my hair down, soft curls framing my face. I sprayed a hint of perfume and stood one last time in the mirror, trying to calm the tremble in my hands. "You're in control," I whispered to my reflection. "Just one night, nothing more." But deep down, I already knew that wasn't true. I stepped into the car that had been waiting. The ride to his penthouse felt endless and yet too short. When the elevator doors opened into the top floor suite, I stepped forward with hesitant steps. His place was stunning. Modern, sleek, masculine. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the New York skyline glittering against the night. But none of it held my attention. He did. Nathan stood by the window, a glass of whiskey in his hand, black dress shirt unbuttoned just enough to tease. His sleeves were rolled up. His eyes were on me the moment I entered. "I thought you might back out," he said with a slow smile. "I thought so too," I whispered. "But you didn't." I shook my head. My pulse thundered beneath my skin. He walked toward me with slow, calculated steps, never breaking eye contact. When he reached me, his fingers touched the side of my face, gentle and warm. "Still afraid?" "Yes, but I think that's part of it." He smiled faintly and slid his hand around the back of my neck, pulling me closer. "Fear isn't your enemy, Emily. Sometimes it's your soul preparing for something you've never known." He kissed me, soft at first, just lips meeting lips, then deeper, fuller, hungrier. His tongue found mine with a slow, confident rhythm that made my knees weaken. His hands held my waist like he'd memorized the shape already. He turned me gently, and I felt my back press against the cold glass of the window. The whole city was behind me, but I only saw him. "You're not wearing panties?" He whispered against my lips. I nodded, breathless. "Good girl." Those two words made my whole body shiver. Nathan took my hand and led me to the bedroom. The bed was wide, covered in white sheets, and framed by soft lights and shadows. But the most beautiful thing in that room was the man in front of me. "Want to see all of you?" he said, reaching for the zipper of my dress. I closed my eyes as he slid the fabric down and let it fall. I stood there in heels and lace, heart thudding. He knelt in front of me, his hands sliding up my thighs, his lips brushing my skin. "So beautiful," he murmured. "So mine." He stood, pulled off his shirt, unfastened his belt. His movements were slow, controlled, confident. Then he joined me on the bed and laid me back gently. His hands explored me with reverence. His lips kissed every inch he touched. He was taking his time, mapping me like a treasure he'd waited years to find. "Is it still your first time?" he asked. "Yes." He paused, eyes dark but tender. "You can stop me anytime. You don't have to prove anything." "I want this," I whispered. "With you." He kissed me again. And when he finally entered me, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy, but it was real. At first, there was a pinch, a moment of discomfort. Then a slow wave of warmth and sensation I'd never known. He moved with care, his eyes never leaving mine. His hands never stopped touching me. He didn't rush. He didn't push. He stayed with me. And when it happened, when my body finally gave in to the pressure and the pleasure, I gasped his name and felt everything I thought I knew unravel. "You're mine now, Emily?" he whispered against my skin. "I won't let you forget it." I didn't want to. I didn't want to think about what it meant. I just wanted to feel it one more time. I woke to sunlight pouring through massive glass windows, soft and golden. For a moment I didn't know where I was. Then I felt the smooth sheets, the faint scent of cologne on the pillow, and the ache deep in my body, a good ache, a real one. Nathan wasn't beside me. I sat up, wrapping the white sheet around myself, scanning the room for any sign of him. My body still hummed from what had happened just hours before. Everything felt different, my skin, my heartbeat, even the way I breathed. He was gone, but on the nightstand was a note. "Coffee is ready." "In the kitchen?" "I let you sleep." Unsimple, direct, no emotion. I exhaled slowly and got out of bed. My legs were still a little weak. My chest felt tight, not from regret, but from something more dangerous attachment. I walked to the bathroom and stared at my reflection. I didn't look the same. My eyes were brighter. My lips slightly swollen, my body marked, not by bruises, but by memory. I looked like someone who had stepped across a line and wasn't sure if she could go back. I found one of his shirts folded on a nearby chair. I slipped it on. It was oversized, warm, and carried his scent like a second skin. As I walked to the kitchen, the penthouse felt both intimidating and intimate. Marble countertops, designer lighting, polished floors. But it was the silence that echoed the loudest. He was standing at the counter, back turned, barefoot, shirt sleeves rolled up, pouring pouring coffee like it was any other morning. "Good morning," I said softly. He turned around, handed me a mug, and took in the sight of me in his shirt. "You look good in that," he said. "I didn't have many options. I was hoping you'd wear nothing." I raised an eyebrow. Why so subtle? He laughed under his breath and leaned against the counter. "Did you sleep well? Better than I expected?" We sipped coffee in a silence that was calm on the outside but buzzing underneath. I wanted to say about last night. He cut me off. "You don't have to explain. You did what you wanted." "So did I." I paused. "Did it change anything?" He stared at me, serious now. "I don't know yet. The question is, do you want it to?" Didn't answer. Because I didn't know? We finished our coffee, both pretending this was still just a clean line between two professionals. But nothing was clean anymore. Lines had been crossed, erased, redrawn. Later that morning I got dressed and left his penthouse without another word. The city outside felt louder than usual, as if the world had shifted by a single degree, and I was the only one who noticed. Back at my apartment, I dressed carefully. Pencil skirt, silk blouse, nude lipstick, hair. In a clean bun, polished, composed. Every inch of me was designed to say, "I'm fine. Right. I'm in control." But inside, I was chaos. I arrived at the office earlier than usual. I didn't want anyone whispering or guessing. I sat at my desk and threw myself into reports, letting the noise of work cover the noise in my head. At exactly 9 a.m., I heard the elevator doors open. I didn't have to look to know it was him. I could feel it.
Yes.
Nathan Blake's presence entered every room before he did. I looked up just in time to see him walk past in a perfectly fitted charcoal suit, hair styled with intention, cologne trailing. Behind him like a signature. "Good morning, Emily," he said as he passed, calm and detached. "Good morning, Mr. Blake," I replied, steady as stone. He looked at me briefly, eyes scanning me like he always did. Then he disappeared into his office without another word. But that look, it said everything words couldn't, all day. I watched him interact with the team, polite, commanding, brilliant. He asked for numbers, he corrected strategies. He handed out decisions like they were pieces on a chessboard. But every time his voice said my name, it curled into something else. A memory, a possession, a promise. That afternoon, the executive assistant announced a quick strategy alignment meeting. Nathan included me on the invite list, which surprised everyone including me. In the conference room, he sat at the head of the table. I took a seat to places to his right, far enough to seem appropriate, close enough to feel everything. He asked questions, gave orders, made observations. And when he said, "Emily, what do you think?" I felt the entire room shift. I answered confidently, even though my hands trembled beneath the table. After the meeting, people filtered out. I grabbed my notes, ready to slip away quietly. But then he said my name, Emily. I stopped. He walked over slow and intentional and stopped right in front of me. "Are you okay?" "Yes. Why wouldn't I be?" Looked at me for a long, steady beat. "Are you sure you're still in control?" My breath hitched. "I've always been in control." He gave a faint smile, not amused but intrigued. "That's what fascinates me." He leaned in just slightly, his voice lower than a whisper. "You actually believe that?"
Oh.
Then he walked away, leaving me standing in the hallway, shaken down to the bone. And I was starting to realize the scariest thing of all. I wanted to lose control with him. The next morning, the sky was heavy. Rain lashed against windows, and the wind pushed through the city like it was chasing something. Storm warnings were everywhere, but no one in the office paid them any attention. Everyone was too busy pretending everything was normal. Nathan wasn't. Pretending just after lunch, he approached me at my desk, composed but brisk. "I want you to accompany me to our new branch opening. We'll meet with the local team and return by evening." "Of course," I said, trying to mask the way my pulse instantly responded to the sound of his voice. 15 minutes later, we were in his car, heading through the city. The clouds outside darkened and the rain started lightly before building into something much more violent. It whipped across the windshield, and thunder cracked above the skyscrapers. Nathan drove with both hands on the wheel, his jaw set, calm, focused. "You. All right?" I asked, watching the trees sway outside. "I'm fine, just watching the road. This storm's worse than I thought." Visibility worsened with every mile. The GPS blinked warnings and rerouted. Then the car began to slow. "Damn," he muttered. "What? Is it?" The roads flooded ahead, and the way back just got blocked. "So what do we do now?" He looked around, then back at his phone. No signal, no calls going through. For a moment, we sat in silence, both watching the rain slam against the windows like the world was unraveling. "I saw a small hotel back at the last gas station," I said. "It looked basic, but maybe we can wait the storm out there." He met my eyes, nodded once. "Let's go back. Safer than pushing through this." We found it easily. A modest building with a flickering sign and a tired-looking clerk behind. The front desk, the woman greeted us kindly, then apologized. "There's only one room left." Nathan looked at me, his expression unreadable, then turned back to the clerk. "That'll be fine. We'll take it." The room was small. One double bed. One armchair in the corner. A window that rattled from the wind. It was warm, dry, and somehow more intimate than anything we had planned. I took off my coat and tried to keep things light. "I can sleep on the chair." "No," he said immediately. "I'll take it. You're my boss. And I'm not going to make you uncomfortable?" We locked eyes for a second too long. He sat down on the chair, removed his jacket, and loosened his tie. I could feel his gaze on me as I moved toward the bed, pretending to check the television remote just to keep my hands busy. "Do you regret it?" he asked. I turned, caught off guard. "Regret what?" "That night, my place?" I shook my head. Slowly, no, but I'm still figuring out what it means. He nodded, his voice quieter now. "So am I, and I haven't stopped thinking about you." My breath caught. He stood, walked toward me slowly, like every step was deliberate. "This shouldn't be happening," I whispered. "But it is." He stopped right in front of me, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his body through the air between us. He touched my face, not with hunger, but with something gentler, something deeper. Every time I try to pull back, you pull me closer without even realizing it. "I don't know what I'm doing," I admitted. "I don't even understand what I want right now." "But you don't want to run," he said. "Not from this. Not tonight." That was all he needed. He kissed me again, slowly, deeply. There was no urgency this time, just understanding. Desire wrapped in restraint. His hands moved carefully, not rushing. Mine clung to his shirt, feeling every muscle beneath. He lifted me gently, laid me on the bed, and lay beside me like he'd been waiting for this moment his entire life. "If I touch you now," said voice low and rough, "it won't just be sex." I nodded, barely breathing. "I know." "Still want it?" He kissed me again, deeper this time, and began undressing me with reverence. His hands moved slowly. His mouth followed each place he uncovered. There was no rush, just heat, patience, emotion he wasn't ready to name. When I was fully bare beneath him, he pulled off his shirt and joined me. Our bodies fit together like they had always known each other, like they had been waiting. "Tell me if I do anything that makes you uncomfortable," he whispered. "There's no fear," I said softly. "Only you." When he entered me, again, this time in a dimly lit room with a storm raging outside, it was deeper, fuller, more vulnerable than anything we had shared before. He moved with purpose, with emotion. He kissed my neck, my shoulder, my lips like he was trying to memorize me. When the pleasure came, it built slowly, breaking over me in waves I couldn't control. And afterward, when my head rested against his chest and his fingers moved lazily up and down my spine, I didn't feel confused. I felt safe. We stayed like that for a long time. The storm rattled the windows, but inside, we were still, quiet, completely connected. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. Because lying in his arms, I already knew the truth. Something between us had changed forever. When I woke up, he was gone. But the warmth in the sheets beside me told me he hadn't been gone long. The room still carried the scent of him cologne, skin, and something intimate I couldn't name. I rolled over slowly, letting the morning light brush across my face. Then I saw it. A folded note on the pillow. I had to leave for a morning meeting. You looked too beautiful sleeping to wake. N. See you at the office. I stared at the words longer than I needed to, reading between every line. There was no mention of what happened between us. No question, no promise. Just a note like, this was normal. Like I hadn't just given him everything. And yet part of me smiled. I showered slowly, replaying the night. Every glance, every touch. Every whispered word that blurred the line between control and connection. I could still feel him on my skin, like he had etched himself into every part of me. I got dressed carefully. Fitted pencil skirt, white silk blouse, and nude heels. My makeup was soft, professional. Everything about my appearance said I was composed, but inside, I was anything but. I walked into the office like I hadn't spent the night wrapped around the man who ran it. I took my seat, powered up my laptop, and stared at the blank screen while my heart pounded with every second that passed, and then I heard it. The unmistakable rhythm of his steps, measured, calm, powerful. Nathan Blake entered the building like he always did, controlled, unreadable. He walked past the front desks, nodded at a manager, and greeted a board member in the hallway. When he reached me, he paused just long enough to speak. "Good morning, Emily." His tone was even, his expression blank. No flicker of emotion. Sign of what we'd shared just hours ago. "Good morning, Mr. Blake," I replied, steady and practiced. He walked into his office without looking back, but that was the game. He wouldn't look back. He didn't have to, because I was already tied to him in ways that scared me more than I wanted to admit. That afternoon, while I was filing reports and trying to keep my mind on work, a whisper drifted through the office. Bianca's. "Back." I looked up sharply. One of the senior assistants leaned toward me, wide-eyed. Bianca Pierce, the lawyer. You know, the Bianca. The one he used to see. My throat tightened. Used to. They were intense. And then she just disappeared. Oh, she's back. Before I could respond, I heard the clack of heels echoing down the hallway. I turned toward the sound and saw her. She was tall, elegant, and confident. She wore a fitted navy dress and walked like she owned the floor. Heads turned. Smiles followed. Her, and then she walked straight into Nathan's office. I didn't mean to watch. But I did. She hugged him. Not the kind of hug people give in front of coworkers. It was too close, too familiar. She adjusted his collar with a soft, knowing smile. He let her. Something twisted in my stomach. I turned, ready to get away from the glass wall, but I walked straight into him. Nathan had stepped out just as I tried to walk off. His eyes met mine instantly. He saw everything. "Emily," he said, his voice low. "Everything all right?" "Of course. Why wouldn't it be? You're tense. Your jaw's tight. Your breathing's shallow. I'm fine." He stepped closer, his voice dropping into a whisper. "Are you jealous?" I rolled my eyes, trying to walk around him. But he stopped me with a hand on my arm. "Because if you are, I'd understand," he murmured near my ear. "I'm not." He leaned closer. "You're a terrible liar. Do you really think one? Night changes everything." He gave a small, dark smile, but you already know it did. Then he turned and walked away, calm as ever. But I wasn't calm. Not even close. I went back to my desk, hands shaking, stomach in knots. I had told myself it was just an experience, that I was still in control. But watching him with her, feeling his hands on my arm minutes later, hearing his voice claim me, without saying the words, I realized the truth. This wasn't casual, not anymore, and I had no idea what to do about it. The Friday evening cocktail party felt like a battlefield disguised as glamour. I arrived in a black dress with a daring thigh, slit heels clicking confidently on the marble floor. My hair was swept to one side, makeup flawless. I was determined to look untouchable. I entered the room with Daniel Reed, our finance analyst, on my arm. He was sweet, polite, and completely off my radar. Greeted colleagues with a friendly smile while I scanned the crowd for Nathan. He stood by the bar, dark suit tailored perfectly, eyes on me the moment I appeared. His jaw was clenched tight, as if he wanted to tear my dress off with his gaze. When Daniel leaned in to whisper a joke, I forced a laugh but felt Nathan's stare burning against my back. Daniel's phone buzzed. He frowned and excused himself. As he walked away, I realized I'd invited him precisely so Nathan would see me with someone else. I saw his lips twitch into a dangerous smirk. He moved through the party with purpose, passing beneath crystal chandeliers and past polished lacquer bars, until he reached me. "Emily," he said quietly, voice low enough only I could hear. "Let me take you home." I arched an eyebrow. "Is that an order?" He tilted his head. A warning. I forced a reluctant smile and offered my arm to him. Daniel approached again. "Everything okay?" Actually, I think it's time to go," I said, stepping toward Nathan. Daniel nodded and slipped away gracefully. I let Nathan guide me through the crowd and out into the night air. On the drive home, neither of us spoke. The tension in the car was thick enough to taste. At my building, I unbuckled my seatbelt and turned. "This isn't about the party," I said. He stepped closer. "No, it's about you choosing me." My heart pounded. "I already chose you." He brushed a stray hair from my face. "And yet you still play games." I met his gaze. I just needed to know I mattered. He cupped my cheek. "You matter more than anything." He leaned in and kissed me fiercely. It wasn't the gentle, reverent kiss of before. It was urgent and claiming, as if staking an eternal claim. When he pulled away, he pressed his forehead to mine. "I'm done playing." I closed my eyes. "Me too." He carried me up to his penthouse, past the doorman, through the silent halls, and into the bedroom. There was no hesitation this time. He stripped me quickly, hands never leaving my skin. Then he turned me around, pressed me into the plush carpet, and entered me from behind. My breath hitched as he drove deeper, faster, each movement a statement of possession. When the pleasure peaked, it crashed over me like a tidal wave. I cried out his name and felt every part of me surrender. He followed seconds later, slumping against me as we rode the wave together. Afterward, he pulled me to him, arms wrapped tight. "This is real," he whispered. I pressed my face into his chest. "I know." He held me until the tremors faded, then kissed the top of my head. "No more games, I promise." I looked up, my eyes meeting his. "No more games." First time. I believed it. It's been 1 year since that night. 1 year since. I walked into a stranger's world and left with more than just an experience. Since the first touch that shook me, the first kiss that claimed me, and the first moment I gave myself permission to want more, Nathan Blake still looks at me the same way he did back then. Like I'm the only thing that ever interrupted his perfect order. And somehow, instead of running from that chaos, he built his life around it. Around me, we still work together. Same building, same boardrooms, same long meetings. But the connection between us isn't hidden anymore. We don't have to pretend. We're a secret everyone knows, but no one dares speak about. Because now, we're more than a story whispered through glass walls. Now we're real. Sometimes during meetings, he'll glance at me when no one's watching, and I'll know exactly what he's thinking. Other times, he'll send a single message. "Close the door." I do. He pulls me into his office, into his arms, into a world where there's no need for restraint. And even though we've had 100 nights together since that first one, the fire between us hasn't dulled. If anything, it burns brighter. What surprises me the most isn't how intense we still are. It's how safe I feel with him now. Nathan, the man who never trusted anyone, trusts me. He's still precise, still brilliant, still powerful. But with me, he's more. He listens. He lets me grow. He pushes me toward every opportunity and celebrates every little win like it's a victory of his own. And I, the girl who once thought she needed no one, found out I could still be independent and completely loved at the same time. Yesterday, I saw something in his desk drawer. A small black velvet box tucked behind his pens. I didn't open it. I didn't have to. My heart already knew what it was, but I left it there. I didn't mention it, because I want him to believe he can still surprise me. And he can, every day. He still makes me laugh when I least expect it. Still makes me blush with one glance across a crowded room. Still says my name like it's sacred. Right now, he's standing across the office in a perfectly cut navy suit, phone to his ear. His expression focused and calm. And then he looks up, sees me, smiles. It's small. It's almost unnoticeable. But it's meant for me. And in that moment, I remember exactly how far we've come. From betrayal to boldness, from fear to fire, from pretending to real love. I never thought one night could change everything, but it did.